Hello people, welcome back to Speaking Spurs with me, Kieran, for the second video of today. The first one that some of you may have seen already was about the coaching update. So if you haven't seen that one yet, go back onto the main page on this YouTube channel and then have a little look there, and it talks you through the changes that we've now got in our coaching setup. This video here is all about transfer links. Now we've got that man in there, Nuno, Espirito, Santo. Paratici's obviously been working hard looking at people that would fit the mould of the club and fit the way that Nuno has spoken that he would like to play. Now Nuno's in there, no doubt they'll be having more and more discussions with Daniel Levy creeping in there with his little bit of input as well. And I'm sure he'll be key in any kind of negotiations, because we know he doesn't like to spend a penny more than he has to. So hopefully the three of them can work really well, get some great players in to work in the system that Nuno wants to play and get the best out of them. So look, there's a few links of players of ours potentially leaving. Obviously, Serge Aurier has been told that he can go. Sissoko will probably be one to walk out the door. Apparently, Toby Alderweireld just says that he wants to leave. And it's a bit of a strange one because he is the best of our centre-backs. I would have liked him to stay, but however, he is the oldest. He's probably worth the least amount of money, so it's better to get rid of him now so we get something in whilst he's still at a high level, shall we say. He's not at the top of his game. He's not the Toby of 2-3 seasons ago. Still a very good defender, though, as we've seen so far in the Euros. But yeah, apparently he wants to leave, which means we can bring someone in because we'll get some money. So we'll look at all these. And the first one, there's been talks that this deal is very close. Personal terms apparently have been agreed. However, it's just sorting out the nitty-gritty of that transfer fee. And of course it's going to come down to that because Daniel Levy is the man with the purse strings. So that is Takahiro Tomiyasu. So he's a 22-year-old Japanese international that plays for Bologna. Apparently we've offered 15.4 million and they want something closer to 17.1 million. He can play at right back or centre back. He has excelled in Serie A this season. He's made 33 appearances for Bologna. His biggest attribute, I would say, is he anticipates danger. He's very good at reading situations just before they occur. Whereas what we have with Serge Aurier, and this is what frustrates me, Serge Aurier has the ability to be a very, very good wing-back. He can do the defensive work, but only when you tell him that he can't go forward. When he goes forward, his ability to anticipate things is pretty poor. He's a reactive defender rather than proactive, whereas Tomiyasu is very much a guy that anticipates the danger. But the fact that he can play in two positions as well is great, because that obviously offers cover for Matt Doherty if he were to be injured, so he could play as the right wing-back. But if we're going to play three centre-backs, bang, you can smack him in there. So, you know, a youngster, there's a lot of 22-year-olds in this list as well. It's very strange that we're linked with so many 22-year-olds. But like he looks like a good player, has a lot of ability. And obviously the main attraction for Daniel Levy is going to be his marketability. Look, one of the things we found is Son Heung-min, which was not just a great player. He earns us so much money. If you've been to the stadium for a game, the amount of people from South Korea is ridiculous. Like, that when they come over to visit London, they will come and watch a game just to see Sonny. Like, the amount of shirt sales and revenue that we get from him as a player is immense. His marketability is great. So if we can not only get a great defender with incredible potential, but somebody that's going to bring us in revenue streams from fans in Japan, it's just a win-win all round. It pleases everyone. It brings us in revenue. It'll be good on the pitch. Tick, tick, tick for Daniel Levy. So that's probably why they're pushing for that one. If any of you remember Bongani Kumalo, there'll be a lot of you thinking, who? Because I don't think he actually made any Premier League appearances for us. His only first team appearances that I remember were in cup matches. He spent most of his time with us out on loan. However, we got him in on the cheap. He was the captain for South Africa. I mean, he wasn't a bad defender. We loaned him out to championship teams mostly. But you can guarantee the reason he was bought in was purely for the fact that he was captain of his national team, which meant people would buy Tottenham shirts with Kamalo on the back. It's all about how much money they can bring us in if they're not going to play. He would have brought us more money than he cost us. And sending him out on loan meant his wages were covered the whole time. So, very clever bit of business. But this one hopefully can be a player that's actually good. Next one, Yannick Vestergaard. So, if you've been watching the Euros, he has been playing very, very well for Denmark and has actually been keeping another one of our targets out of the side, Joachim Andersen. So he's kept him out. Like Vestergaard, he's 6'6". Like the guy is huge. He's 28 years old. Although he does turn 29 next month. So age-wise, not the best, but technically should be in his prime right now. So we won't have to wait for any kind of development. He's obviously playing in the Premier League anyway. It's been a bit of hit and miss, but the last season under Hassan Hutel, he certainly stepped his game up, and he's been very good in the Euros for Denmark. He's good on the ball, obviously good in the air based on his size. The only worry is he lacks pace, but if we play in a back three and we have two defenders around him with pace, not so much of a worry. But yeah, as I said, turns 29 next month, and this has been backed up by several reports, reporters. It's everywhere at the moment. So yeah, those two are certainly front runners at the moment. Now, the next person that we're linked with is Nikola Milenkovic. Now, this is someone that Arsenal apparently are really interested in, and West Ham certainly would want. I mean, the fans do, and apparently the West Ham fans have been kicking off because they believe that he's actually Spurs bound. Now, this is a 23-year-old centre-back. He's a Serbian international. The price quoted is about £23 million. He plays for Fiorentina. He's got great ability and could become elite. If he carries on the trajectory he's at, he's going to be a very, very good defender. So, somebody that I wouldn't be disappointed if we got. Like, any of those three look good, but certainly, the two younger ones, we can make a bit of money out of them in the future. And we will get many more years out of them, potentially. Another two centre-backs that we are linked with is James Tarkowski and Connor Cody. Obviously, Connor Cody was going to be someone we would be linked with regardless because we're looking for a centre-back. And he was very good in the system with three at the back for Wolves under Nuno. Got the best out of him. The guy's in the England squad. Hasn't played any minutes at the Euros so far. Played in some of the warm-up games and did fairly well. I quite like him. He seems like a good character. If you've seen any of his interviews or, they do the videos with the clubs where they do stuff for fun and England do stuff for fun. He has a very good personality. On the pitch, he's a great leader. Very talkative. So, I mean, that's a possibility and I wouldn't be too disappointed. So, James Tarkowski, he plays for Burnley. I mean, he's okay. I wouldn't mind him. He's contracted until 2022. He's got Premier League experience, obviously. The only worry would be, would he suit our style of play? Obviously, we want to be a team that plays with the ball. Burnley, although they have some good footballers in there, I worry that their defending style has influenced Tarkowski in a certain way. So I don't know if he'd be a fit. Defensively, he would be great. But in terms of when we've got the ball, I'm not too sure. So what does that lead us on to next? The next defender, Jules Koundé is somebody that I've spoken about previously. Obviously, he has a massive release clause, but there is talk that he could go cheaper. An opening offer of 50 million, I would say, would be fair. He's another 22-year-old. Lots of potential. He's been playing for France in the Euros. He does look a good player. He's looked very composed and ahead of his years, certainly in league appearances. However, I think of all the options, he will be the most expensive. He definitely has the most potential, but I just think for the money he's going to cost, bearing in mind we're going to need to reinvest in other areas of the squad. We may need a new striker. We're going to need another midfielder, possibly need another right back if the Tomiyasu deal doesn't get over the line, and we don't know how much that's going to cost. And then potentially a second centre-back, depending on what happens with our current ones. So there is some money to be spent. So I don't know if that one will happen, or even if he'll want to come to us, because club football, he's going to have Champions League football next season anyway. But I think they want to get some money in to reinvest in other areas of the squad. So we'll see how that one develops. Okay, so that link with Joachim Andersen, that one won't go away. Obviously, we have a good relationship with Leon. It's quoted £25 million. Look, he had a good season for Fulham despite their relegation. We know what he can do. He was good on the ball. He's good in the air. Great passing ability over a long range. In fact, better than Toby Alderweireld with his long balls. He's very, very vocal. He says that himself. He's openly says that he thinks that's one of his biggest strengths. So he could be a leader for us. And he's only 24 years old. So it's a good option. I wouldn't mind seeing him in there. I think Vestergaard is currently ahead of him in terms of ability. But where Anderson can get to, I think he can be better than Vestergaard. So we'll see how that one develops. I think that is it for the centre-backs. Excellent. So let's have a look. We've got a link with a goalkeeper, Pierluigi Gallini. So he's currently at Atalanta. Some of you may have known him for a previous spell in England. He was with Aston Villa in the Championship in 2017. Didn't do too well there. He only made 20 appearances and then he actually left for like 3-point-something million. So it wasn't the best spell. There are lots of clubs interested in him at the moment. Some top clubs around Europe. A lot of Italian teams. Roma being one of them. And apparently Jose was actually looking at him to come into Spurs when he was here. So I wouldn't be surprised if we see him go somewhere like Roma. But I think the main reason for looking at a goalkeeper obviously is Joe Hart's not getting any younger and isn't good enough to be our number one. And the rest of our goalkeepers are quite young. Obviously, Gazaniga's now gone. Hugo, he hasn't directly said it, but there's been hints that he could possibly consider his future after the Euros are completely over and done with. So, yeah. But there's plenty of other goalkeepers out there to look at, but I wouldn't be too worried about goalkeepers at the moment. Now, a winger. Mikael Damsgaard, who is linked with everyone at the moment, plays his club football for Sampdoria. He's a winger. He's done very well at the Euros. Looks good. He's obviously plays for Denmark. He's scored one and assisted one at the Euros so far. We will be coming up against him tomorrow night. So that one will be exciting. We'll get another chance to look at him in more depth. He's only 21 years old. Quite exciting. I think Sampdoria are willing to sell. I don't know how much he's going to cost, but I think this one could end up developing into a bidding war just based on the fact that he's played so well so far at the Euros. But we're not exactly desperate for wingers. So I don't know if I can see that one happening. Now let's look at inside of the midfield. So Miralem Pjanic, currently at Barcelona, hasn't lit the world alight. Hasn't kind of gone to the heights that we thought he would. He had 4 successful years at Juventus, and that's where he kind of really made a name for himself. He's 31 years old now, so he's not on the young side whatsoever. But if you look at Nuno and the way he deployed his midfield at Wolves, João Moutinho, who is a guy that we were actually looking at a few years back and didn't sign. And I think we were still looking at him when Wolves got him. And, you know, João Moutinho, great player, very creative, nice low centre of gravity. Pjanic is a better version of João Moutinho, if I'm honest. Had 4 great years at Juventus. He's a very, very technical player. He's intelligent, great playmaker, he's skillful, but he's also got defensive instincts as well, which means he could be great put into our midfield, even in an attacking sense, because he's got the defensive awareness to drop back and help Højbjerg and whoever his partner in crime is going to be, or Pjanic further back. He's a great deep-lying playmaker. I mean, that one will be an interesting one. Whether he's going to want to come to us, I don't know, because I think there'll be a few clubs looking at him, but Barcelona need to get wages off. I mean, Messi's out of contract, and they're obviously going to want to re-sign him. But they've also got new players in there, like Aguero and things like that. So they've essentially got players that they can't, even though they're at the club, they can't register them to play because they can't afford the wages. So they're going to have to shift some players. I think Coutinho's another one that they're looking to get rid of. And these players are all going to go at cut price fees because they need them out the door if they want to keep Lionel Messi. If not, it's bye-bye Messi, which would free up a lot of wages. But they're not going to want to lose him. He is Mr. Barcelona. Who else have we been linked with? Oh, this is an interesting one. Weston McKennie. So he's actually at Juventus. He was on loan to Juventus from Schalke, and then they made the move permanent. Paratici is a massive admirer of him. So he's a midfielder as well. He made 34 appearances in Serie A last season. He's another 22-year-old. We're getting them all in there, all the 22-year-olds. He scored 5 goals and got 2 assists last season. So not the biggest return, but certainly not the worst. I mean, we had plenty of players that got nowhere near that last season. So he's American. He's Texas-born. He's got 4 years left on his contract at Juventus. So you would imagine that one would be quite an expensive acquisition. So I think there's other options we will look at first. And obviously, we would need to get players out the door for him to come in. And it also creates another conundrum because of the homegrown limits and stuff. That's another foreign player coming in. So we would need more foreign players to go out. When actually, if you look at the players that could be leaving the club, it's potentially a lot of English guys as well as the foreign guys. So, weird situation. Obviously, strikers is the next one we're going to look at. We've been linked with a few of them because the Harry Kane rumours won't go away. Although Harry Kane has come out and spoken and said things like, look, he's had no contact from the club or anything because he's focusing on the Euros, which we understand he's captain, and he's just sort of hit his stride in terms of goal scoring and the way he's playing and confidence. So he's certainly not going to want to break that by thinking about club football. But he has praised Nuno. He said that he's a great manager. He did a great job at Wolves, plays in a really good way. As a player, we want to be wanted and feel loved, which he does. And I think that's come from Paratici. He's come out this week saying that he's going to do everything he can to make sure Harry Kane stays at the club, which is what we want to hear as fans. And it's all going to come down to money anyway. I do think if a £150 million bid comes in, it's going to be too hard to turn that down. And you got to remember, it's pure profit. He didn't cost us anything to come into the club, so the more we can get, the better it is. There's no money that's got to go anywhere else. We're not covering costs from when we signed him. But look, I hope he stays and gives us at least one more year. I understand that his money's going to fall year on year, but I wouldn't be thinking about that really too much in a negative way if we get less, because he costs us nothing. So anything we make on him is profit. So even if he goes for 50 million, that's 50 million we've made for nothing. It's not like players that you sign like Moussa Sissoko, we signed him for 30 million. We'll be lucky if we get 10. Same with Lamella. We signed him for 27 million, something like that. I mean, he's only got a year left on his contract. He's injury prone. He's getting older now, so he's not going to make us a lot of money. So you got to look at it that way as well. It's not about making as much money as you can sometimes. It's about keeping the players to benefit the club and then maybe losing them for less money. Like I moan all the time that Moussa Dembele, we let him go in that January because we got 12 million for him. And I'm like, no, let him stay to the end of the season and just let him go for free at the end. We signed him for such little money. There's no need to make your money back, because keeping a player to the end of the season of that quality could have helped us get over the edge. We could have won the Champions League. Then that 12 million doesn't seem so important, does it? But yeah, so strikers, where was I? Darren Anderton has come out and said that we should look at signing Raul Jimenez. He missed most of the season, obviously, because of his fractured skull. He was out for about 8 months. They reckon he's set to return for pre-season, which is a good thing. Obviously, Nuno knows him very well. He played sensationally, and Wolves were never quite the same without him, which is why Nuno had to kind of adapt to the way they play amongst other injuries within the squad and players that they lost, including Matt Doherty, who came to us. Look, Raul Jimenez, I would love if he came. If he's going to be the same player that he was before his injury, then it's a no-brainer. Take him. Even if Kane doesn't go, take him. They could play together. There's no reason. And the way Nuno plays, you can play with 2 guys up top. So that's an interesting one, and I'd be very excited if it happened. Who else have we got? Okay, so for those of you that have been following the Euros, which I'm sure most of you have, Benfica striker, and it's not Carlos Vinicius, Haris Seferovic. Now, I've actually been really impressed with him watching. So he is a Swiss international. Problem is, he's got a £50 million buyout clause. However, I think they would let him go for somewhere between 20 and 25 million. He's 29 years old. So that's That's a chunk of money to risk on a player that you don't know is going to suit the Premier League. However, like he struggled for goals when Vinicius was at Benfica with him, and then Vinicius obviously came to us, and then his goals naturally went up. He scored 69 goals and has 29 assists in 173 appearances. And as I said, when Vinicius went, his goal rate went up. So that tells you he has the ability to score goals. But when Vinicius was there, they're either sharing the position or Seferovic is spending time on the bench. Like, he's a good striker. I think I've enjoyed watching him. He battles. At the Euros, he's actually scored 3 goals in the 5 games he was involved in. Look, he's not a big name striker, but he's reliable. He's great on the end of crosses. If you've seen like some of the headers that he scored. So that'll be an interesting one. I wouldn't say no to that, and I wouldn't be disappointed. I think as far as a backup striker goes, you could do much worse than Seferovic. So we'll see how that one develops. Who else have we got in here, strikers? Oh, one that we were linked with last summer, Wolfsburg striker Wout Weghorst. The links are back in again. He's the front man for Wolfsburg, 28 years old. He got 20 goals from 32 league games last season, so that's a decent return. You can't turn it down. He is a decent player, and obviously we were linked with him before. He's another guy that I was actually quite happy to take last summer, and I would still be happy again. So that's a decent link, and it's not going anywhere anytime soon. It's going to be our new Leandro Damião. Yeah, that one. If you remember, of course you remember that when we were linked with him every summer for about 5 summers, and his career hasn't really taken off, has it? So dodged a bullet on that one. But I think that's it for actual links with strikers that are officially out there. Yeah, I think that's it from my notes. However, there's been links and they're probably not proper links. It's just speculation because Danny Ings has obviously turned down the option of a 4-year contract at Southampton. I think he wants to play Champions League football. He wants to play for one of the top 4. So I don't even know if we could get him. I think if Kane stays, it will be a no because he's going to want to play regularly. And I don't think he will if Kane's there. I mean, we're in a fair few competitions, so he'll get game time, just not the kind that he wants. So I don't think that one will happen unless Kane goes. And it depends who else comes in for him. Like if I was Man City, I would just go for him. It's a perfect replacement for Aguero. Probably need a drink. Throat's a bit dry. Yeah, struggling to get words out. But yeah, he'd be a great replacement for Aguero. So I don't think that one will happen for us. I think it's literally just a link because he's turned down a contract and we like him. Now, if we look at other players that could potentially go, obviously I spoke about Toby. There's been a lot of links about Harry Winks potentially going. There was a stupid one like a month ago about Manchester United wanting him for ridiculous money. Look, I don't think he'll go United, but reports are coming out linking Winks with Aston Villa. And Dele Alli has also been linked with Aston Villa. Now, if any of you have seen on social media this week, Dele Alli has posted loads of stuff where he's actually been on holiday in Dubai, I believe, and he's been using a trainer out there and a training centre. He's done a lot of work outside. He looks ripped. He looks in great shape. He said he's in the best shape that he's ever been in. He's been putting in so much hard work to ensure that he gets himself back in the squad, and he's come out with a statement, and it's very mature. He's come out and essentially blamed himself for his lack of success. He's not blaming Jose for leaving him out the squad. In fact, he's actually talked about how good it was to have Jose as a manager. And look, this is a learning curve for him. And hopefully that attitude that he's now shown will get him back in. That he'd have been gutted watching the Euros thinking, if I'd have applied myself a bit more, I could have been there. And I could have been one of the heroes for England. And it's looking like we could potentially do this. I mean, it's coming home. It's coming home. He could have been one of the guys to bring it home, so he'll be absolutely gutted. And I think there'll be a few players around. I mean, Winks as well will certainly feel like he should have been in that squad. Like with the potential he's got and the fact that Gareth Southgate loves Winks. Like, I think leaving out Winks would have hurt him. And Eric Dyer is another guy that's going to need to push himself on and prove himself. These are players that were regularly in England squads that haven't been. But yeah, I could see Aston Villa taking Winks depending on other moves. So I think they're looking at Ward-Prowse as well. So if that doesn't happen, I could see them coming in for Winks instead. Dele Alli would potentially be their replacement for Jack Grealish, or the fact that Barkley was on loan there, and it started off well and then didn't end so well. He kind of divided as the season went on. I feel like Ali's a bit of a swap for that. But yeah, I can see Winks going. I just don't think he's going to get the game time at Spurs unless he really pushes himself, especially with Skippy coming back. So that one will be interesting as it develops. And that's it for the players potentially leaving permanently. However, I think they're going to be sending Troy Parrott back out on loan again. He's obviously had a difficult season out on loan. Ended up playing for 2 different clubs in the Championship. He obviously picked up an injury which held him back. But as we got to the latter end of the season, he certainly perked up and things started going well. So I think another loan would be great for him. Now he's had the experience of the Championship, I think he can kick on next season. I don't think he's ready to come into the first team fold just yet. Skip and Sessegnon, apparently they are to stay at Spurs next season, which is great news because I think they've both had very good loans. Obviously, Skippy's had a promotion campaign and he was massive for Norwich. And obviously, they've just taken Billy Gilmore on loan from Chelsea. So I'm happy about that because that means Skip isn't going to go on loan there. And I don't think he would have anyway. He's got a massive, massive future. And it's time to integrate himself into the first team squad properly. Sessegnon, he had a fairly decent season. He's going to be competing with Reguilon, like really pushing him for that wing-back spot. So really happy for both of them. Hope they can do the job. The other one, Jack Clark, I think he's likely to go back out on loan again. And I feel a bit gutted for him, really, because we brought him in and he was a fairly exciting player. Then we sent him back out on loan to Leeds, which was baffling to me. I don't think Bielsa wanted him back. I think it was one of them where Leeds wanted him back, Bielsa didn't. He came in and Bielsa just didn't play him. Simple as. And then obviously went out on loan again to Stoke. He just had a bit of a strange season. Like, he's a talented player. I kind of don't understand why we bought him because he doesn't fit into the way we play. And with Nuno coming in as well, I still can't find a place for him. If we're going to be looking for those wing-backs bombing on and essentially becoming wingers, kind of leaves Jack Clark a little redundant. So I don't think we're ever going to see him have a successful career at Spurs. But it is what it is. So yeah, they're the players that we're really linked with. Some of them are obviously going to be just agent talk and paper talk, but a lot of centre backs, and you'd imagine there'll be many more coming over the next few days. But I will make sure that I do you another video with updates as and when they come in. I'll try and keep them nice and regular now because we're at that exciting time where we're talking about the transfers. Have a little dialogue. Let me know about any of those guys that I've mentioned today that you would like to see in a Spurs shirt, and any suggestions of players that are realistic. Let's not get excited, Spurs fans, that are realistic that you would like to see come to Spurs that haven't been mentioned by myself or in any other media links. So thanks for sticking around. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Really, really appreciate it. We'll keep this channel growing at a nice steady pace. Don't forget to support this video with a like, and you can even turn on the bell notification so you get notified when the next video goes live. So thank you very much for sticking around. Don't forget to load it with comments and I'll get back to as many of you as I can. In fact, I think I get back to everyone too. But yeah, hit me up with the comments. Stay safe, guys. And as always, come on you Spurs.